Okay, in this session we are going to learn about a software development life cycle. So we are going to learn at early stage so that it will help us to understand the project management and the uh, what are the life cycles are there, and also what is a BA role within that. Here, although it is mentioned as a software development lifecycle, but actually what we are going to learn is mostly about the project management lifecycle. There is a slight difference between the project management lifecycle and the software development lifecycle. The software is basically a part of your project. Okay, so when we talk about the software is a part of the project, it means that when you are reached to the design phase, at the time when you are recommending a solution, at the time you may find out which software, one or more softwares are suitable for that solution, so that way it is, and then the software life cycle starts. So remember that many people use the project management lifecycle and software development lifecycle interchangeably, but that's not the case. Both have different definitions and different ways. But the software development lifecycle is a subset of project management lifecycle. Okay, now in this slide, if you see here, what we have done is we have a few steps we have mentioned here, and we are going to go through them in detail. And these steps has nothing but basically the particular activities done at each phases. We have not defined them any particular name, but we are trying to basically um, uh, uh, disintegrate or defunction them as much as possible. And this is so if when you refer these other uh, software development life cycle, for example, if you refer waterfall or if you refer agile or RUP, you may find some or more are listed, not all of them. Okay, so this is the basic concept. So we are going to learn about the concept, the basic concept, and then we will learn about what are the various different types of the software development life cycles are there, and how they are different from each other, and in what situation we should select which one. So this is very critical for the business analyst to know, because his role changes within that. For example, if you are using a waterfall methodology, then your role is different. If you are using the agile, then your role will change. Okay, so if you don't understand the concept of SDLC at the early stage, and if you don't understand what do they mean and what are the different SDLCs are there, and what are the different artifacts you need to prepare, and then in what scenarios they are used, then if you don't have that information, then it becomes very difficult for you to basically proceed further. Okay, so this is basically the we are going to talk about the concept clearing. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about it basically the first phase. Let's start with the first phase. The first phase is a initiation phase. The initiation phase will begin when the business need or the opportunity is identified. How does that happen? Actually, the let me just open one the Excel sheet. That is a we prepare one Excel sheet for the class notes, and that will be given it to everyone at end of the session or end of the training. Okay, so I'm going to basically use that Excel sheet and create different the what we call the definitions I will write, and then create different the artifacts, and also we will basically use how the techniques can be used. Okay, so just give me 1 second. I'm going to basically uh, uh, talk about the business need, because there is little explanation is required. I'm going to share the Excel sheet with you. Okay, is it visible for all of you? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. And what I'm going to do is basically the concept, because if this concept is not clear, then it will be a little bit difficult. The business need, when we say business need, we talked about there are two things. One is a problem, right? And another is an opportunity. and the third one you may have is a solution. Just third is business problem and opportunity, and what we yeah, that either two is fine. When we say the business opportunity, here it is. Uh, 1 minute, I want to check with you. All of you have a proper network. I think Radhi does not seems to have a good network. If there is any problem, if you want me to stop for a few minutes till you have a good network, let me know. You can just put it in the chat so we can basically take record. We don't want you all to miss any part of the session because this is a very core concept of business analysis. If this is clear in your mind, it is very easy to basically um, move forward. Okay. Business need is nothing but a problem or an opportunity. This is what we define. Either we define the problem or we define the opportunity. The problem typically comes from bottom up approach. What does it mean by bottom up approach? It means that the users are basically help you to they identify the problem and then they report to the seniors, and when it comes to the senior person, then when they see the problems is no longer able to handle or they find it is a critical one and they need a solution, and that is a time when they raise that the need business need documentation, or they ask someone to prepare for the business need document. This is a time typically when they ask they appoint a business analyst and ask them to the prepare for the business need document. In this case, when we talk about the business need document, it is nothing but the problem definition. So what is the source of the problem, how often it is happening, what is the impact of the problem on the particular operations, or on the people who are working in the operations, or the customers, or on the organization, and how serious is that and how often it is happening. Is it how based on that, then they will decide, do we need any solution now or later. Okay, so this is basically is what we talk about. The bottom up approach means the users are reporting the issue to the senior level, and from senior level to the right person, the concerned person, who can basically take this problem to the take this problem further, and then they decide to do something, right? So that's a problem definition. When it comes to the opportunity, it is usually top down. What does it mean by top down? Top down approach is basically is nothing but management. Basically, they identify some an opportunity to a way and in the market, and that they think is suitable for the business to move in that direction. It could be adding the additional product or the services or both, right? So once they want to launch that, and then in order to basically launch that product or services, we need some solution to sustain that, right, to support that particular the business operations. So that's where again the business need arises. So then that is where the business analyst will start working on it, right? So this is basically top down approach coming from the top. And there is also something called peer to peer. Okay, when I say peer to peer, it is basically this is also you can have a problem or opportunity both. It could be any of those. For example, the managers, all of them are asking for some reporting solutions because it's consuming huge time, and when they ask that, they come together and basically express their desire to the management and say that, okay, we are looking for some kind of a solution that will help us to basically generate a reports quickly. Instead of spending 3 days, we can generate a report anytime based on the whatever the data available, and that's a real time as the reporting system. And it's not only we, but it can be basically generated by anyone who has access to the solution. So that is basically helping us to basically have more freedom to and the more transparency in the basically reporting system. So this is the basically suggestion which is coming from peer to peer. So this is all about your business need document. Question? If no question, I'm going to switch to the next level, okay, and we'll go back to the PowerPoint presentation.
If you have a query,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, how can it peer approach can be if the PRs have problem, they can have, like as you said, reporting the solution can be made, but how can it be an opportunity?
Opportunity
Can we
for,
have an example for that?
yes, yes, yes. For example, like let me tell you, uh, like Amazon, for example. Let's take that Amazon, right? What Amazon is having right now, they for them, what is their core business right now? Is earlier their core business was only, I guess, the books, right? They started with the books. Am I right? They wanted to make that book available online so that people could buy the books, right? So that's basically, that's my understanding, in case if I may be wrong, right? um, so when we the Amazon started the providing the books to all the readers, and sometimes the books are, because of the limitations, space limitations, the books are not available in the store, and then they had a option of having a go down, and where they can store those books and basically send it to the readers, and then the operations are much less compared to what the Barnes and Nobles and other competitors were having that time. And that's one, they started with the books. But when they were started selling those books, and then again they made the opportunity, okay, why we can allow the people also to sell. Say for example, I have a book, and then I have two copies of same book, and I want to sell it. So that Amazon has given that option to others also to sell it. Not only Amazon is telling, but others also see. So again, there are, they created that to vendors also, to allowing the vendors to see. In when you talk about this option, but then they went further to basically become a publisher rather than distributor, and then they asked basically the writers, the aspiring writers, basically to use the Amazon platform and sell the books. But in order to that, they have to basically prepare the infrastructure for that. So what is the infrastructure they prepared? They have prepared the Kindle version of the book, so they have to build a software that basically allows the users, the authors basically, to I mean to say, upload the book, and the book would convert into the Kindle version, right? And then it would again take all the necessary information and build a book, what we call a digital book, and allow them to sell. Okay, just give me 1 minute. He's coming back. Actually, he's got some network issue. Okay, I was talking about the Amazon again example. I said Amazon first, they were the distributor, right? They started selling the books first, and then later they added that the additional capabilities to the people to sell their books, right? And then later they become from the distributor they become a publisher. At the time, they have basically provided a platform to the author to publish their books. When we're talking about that, so you have to just basically take one step backward and see what infrastructure they require to build. So they built that Kindle version software facilities, where they build a software, and which the software converted, they took all the data. For example, they took the author data, the category data, and then they took other the ISBN and other identification data, and then they took the main manuscript and the cover letter, right, and converted that into the book, and that is basically made available online on basically Amazon. So it does not happen that way. When they find that opportunity from becoming a publisher, then they have to put in that infrastructure in place. So that is the infrastructure, that's an opportunity. So somebody has worked on that project, right? So that is what we talk about, from opportunity when they identified, from there the executing, and then that is where it comes to the users. Like for example, I'm an author, so I'm started using it. So we as the users have started using the Amazon publishing facilities and publishing our books, right? So this is what we talk about, from the opportunity till that product or the services are launched. Till then, between that, all again the project management happens, right? So we have identified the opportunity, we see what kind of opportunity is there, what kind of a solution will be suitable for that. Then we talk about the requirement, and then we will talk about basically the building what we call designing those requirement, and building a solution and testing it and deploying it, right? That way it is. And again, of course, after deployment, we keep enriching and enhancing the solution on ongoing basis. I hope I answered your query.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you. It is clear now.
Yes, great. Many times the words look simple, and especially in the business analysis field, you may find they are very simple. Like opportunity looks like any common word, but it has a lot of meaning behind it. So, in case if you find such words which you are finding unable to connect them, please raise those queries, and I love to answer all your queries. Okay, and feel free. This is again interactive session. Okay. Okay, next point, as I talked about, when we have the business need and opportunity and we have identified, the business analyst is appointed and project manager is contacted or and communicated that we have some opportunity or some business need, right? When we talk about the business need, it is basically identified what is the business, what is the problem or opportunity, right? That's identification. Then it is analyzed, right? So analysis means what is the source of the problem, what is the impact, what is the impact of the problem, how often it is occurring, and how many the business units are being impacted, or people are impacted, like that. Okay, so that is how we analyze that further, and then we define that. So problem definition. So this is a problem and this is a full definition. So that is a business need documentation, and that is documented, right? So that you can basically put it as a concept proposal also. I would, when we are doing the practicals, we will do the business need document, right, rather than concept proposal. So this is where you have the concept ready. Okay, then system concept development begins after the approval of the concept proposal. Means when you define the business need document and you present that to the relevant stakeholders, and they review it. Okay, what you have defined there, that is correct, so that you got that problem definition correctly, and then that is good to go to the next level, right? In case if there are any queries or something information is not correct, then again it goes into the reviews and again presenting them and again defining them further, right? That's next level. We talk about it, basically system concept development phase. That's the next level of the SDLC. Again, this phase name may be different in a different books or different uh, cycles, but remember that this is a natural progression. So even though don't worry about it, even though phase has a different names, but we complete all these processes throughout the life cycle. So it could be named differently in different books. Okay. In the system concept development phase, the once the business need is approved, the feasibility and appropriateness of the approach to accomplish the concepts are reviewed. Okay, so this is important. We only start when only after the business need is approved, and after that we will see whether it is that particular problem we have we have a solution that could be feasible and appropriate. That is important, and that can be basically defined. For example, I given that Kindle version, right? If the Amazon wanted to become a publisher, so what did they do? They have basically developed that Kindle version software and related other facilities before they become publisher. But remember, they found that it was feasible and appropriate to do so. But however, they've hired another vendor to for the paperback version. The vendor was I don't remember the name of the vendor. It starts from C. That and they were the one who were providing the paperback version. It means that the author has to upload their all the details and the manuscript and the cover, the book cover. That's a paperback version book cover, and then complete the step by step all the events. And once they complete that process, then the publisher would publish the book, and that book was available at Amazon. Now Amazon have started publishing even the paperback version, so the author has option to basically directly go with the Amazon, both the Kindle version and paperback version. But of course I think they have some issues with India, so the books are not printed in India yet. They only are printed in US and other countries. So that in India, like for example, my book, business analysis book, is very expensive. It is like some 1200 rupees. Actually it is the price in other countries is $17, and it is very reasonable. In India it should be 400 rupees, but they are importing, they are not selling directly. Okay, so if they did not find it is feasible and appropriate at that time, so they have outsourced that services to other vendors. Now they are ready for that, then they could basically make that services available themselves. So this is something which you need to understand when it comes to the feasibility and appropriateness. Okay, whether it is feasible by us or by our vendor, that is important, so that we can go ahead and then we can decide which vendor basically can be provided this kind of solution. Okay, next comes to basically system boundary document identifies the scope of the system. It means that we develop a system boundary document or solution scope document which will have all the solution scope. The solution scope will typically will have the high level processes, features and the functionalities, and the data required. Okay, so those are the basically information will be there, and also the high level user role. For example, the different users will be using, like I mentioned that Amazon example, if you see, author is one role, right, and the basically the processing is one another role, and to ensure that, to check if there are any technical issues are there in the document or the what we call the file, then there will be someone else. So there could be a technical consultant or support person. So all will have a different role. So that is what we define them in the initial stage. So this document you can also call as a vision document. Okay, but in a vision document you can also include the business case. But if you are only writing the solution scope, then you can prepare separate business case document. Okay, so that's a little bit of a tricky, which you will understand that when to basically prepare which document. When we say solution document and the business case, FRD, BRD, they're different. But I remember I worked for one of the bank and they were preparing a TOR, that is a terms of reference. So earlier I did not hear. They said, "Oh, you did not hear?" They feel shocked. But I want to ask them, do you know many other things which I don't? I know. They don't know those things, right? So these things, try not to basically make it more, because everybody has exposed to different type of the documentation or information or domain, does not mean that other person may not. So before throw that kind of the questions, just be more careful. Then it comes to the business case, the presented. This is business case is typically for availing your funding. Okay, so in the business case it consists of the cost of the solution, and then it will talk about the benefits the solution will bring in, that is a cost versus benefit, that will be prepared. And it is also mentioned as a ROI. ROI is a return on investment. Okay, so that is what will be prepared. And then again it will also have something which I think I missed out, is benefit versus risk, because even though there are benefits are there, you will have to check what are the risks are involved. If the risks are higher than the benefits, then probably sponsor will not go ahead. So this is very important for you to know, that the cost versus benefit is important, but benefit versus risk is equally important. So benefits must be always more than the risk identified. Okay, that's what it is. So then only then you can get the approval for that particular solution. So this is now the next phase starts as a planning phase. Now remember, there are two types of planning. Is one planning is for the project, that is done by project manager, and the second planning is done by the business analyst. Okay, when we talk about the project planning phase, it is basically project manager will plan for concept further developed to design, how the business will operate once the approved system is implemented. So now remember, business will operate, the reason is once the solution is implemented, it might be connected to various other people. For example, the solution will be used by users, right? And it will also connect with other business systems. It will either fetch the data from the upstream the systems, or what we call send the data to the downstream systems. So this is what we talk about it. And again, are there any processes are changed, or there is any impact on the businesses? Okay, so you may find various other the details, right? So that all has to be basically considered when we talk about uh, the um, the feasibility and how it will be the solution will be operated in future. Then comes to the, we will assess how the system will impact employees and customer privacy. Now, if this is the most important factor, you may find the employees, the impact on the employees, maybe their job becomes redundant, or they may need to acquire for new the uh, what we call skills, right? And some training may be required. Some employees may have to relocate it. That's the impact on the employee. There could be much more, but I'm just listing few. In terms of the customer privacy, in case if you're asking for more the information from the customers, and those information could be various types of information, like for their personal details and all those things. So, and in that case, that customer, how do you maintain the customer privacy is very, very important. Okay, question. And in that case, some uh, okay, there are also, you may find that the some of the places, they have a privacy related laws. And now if you see every what we call the on every company you go on, even if you're applying for a company also, then they will say that a privacy statements are there, and they ask you to read and accept it. Okay, so the customer privacy or the user privacy has become very important for, and from the government perspective, very, very important. And how the companies are collecting your data and how they are sharing with the third party is becoming a very crucial now, and going forward it will be a big issue. In fact, companies can go out of the business if they share the information which is absolutely not required, and which is not in line with the laws and their policies. For example, the hospital sharing the customer data, patient, sorry, customer is their patient, right? Patient data. So that is absolutely not accepted. Okay, especially in the US, because they have HIPAA Act. So they have to basically adhere to those acts and the laws. Okay. Next point, we are talking about ensuring that the product and services provide the required capability. It means that whatever the product and solution we are trying to basically build, it has the all the required capabilities in terms of the whatever the solution we are looking for, features and functionalities, all that basically, and or the problem is solved by the customer, or the opportunity has been realized, like that. Okay. And then when we talk about the project, the next point, feasibility, then the project feasibility, it is, we have to ensure that the project is can be done on time, within budget, and again we talk about project resources and activities, schedules, tools are defined at this stage. This is the work done by project manager. Next goes to the BA. Now here the BA will have a different work during the planning phase. He will do the basically BA planning, that is, he will plan for the BA deliverables. Okay, and BA deliverables means what are the deliverables he or she has to prepare during the project life cycle, and those are basically listed, and those are again depend on the BA approach. BA approach is typically mention which project management approach you want to use. Is it basically agile, or the waterfall, or in short basis, whether you want to go for predictive or adaptive. Predictive is basically well planned and formal process, and adaptive is basically the what we call as you go, or it's more on as you go, you adapt to the new the situations, right? So that's your agile. right? So we will go through that in detail once we finish the concept. Then comes to the stakeholder analysis. This is a time when the business analyst will identify all the stakeholders who will be involved in the project and what kind of a role they will have and what is the nature of engagement they will have. Okay, and when they identify the stakeholders, they will also identify their the contact details, their the skill set, their background, their special needs, and so on, right? So that all the data has to be basically put in place before they start their role, the next work, right? Then comes to the BA governance, that is a BA is a business analysis governance. Here the business analyst will list all the possible activities he has to do depending based on the deliverables mentioned. Okay. So when you talk about the deliverables mentioned, it is basically list of the deliverables what they have, right? Then it comes to the BA policies. What are the different policies you expect during the project, and those has to be basically listed. Then comes to the requirement management planning. There could be various requirement management, how we plan the requirement from the beginning till the end, and what is the life cycle is there, and how the requirements are managed throughout the life cycle will be covered. That's the planning is done. Okay. Then comes to the BA performance, that is a planning the business analyst will do. What are the performance criteria the BA will have to define at the beginning, and then that how they will basically analyze the BA performance based on the expected the result and actual result after the implementing the solution. Okay, so this is what we talk about. This is the planning is done by business. Next phase we talk about it basically is a software development life cycle. This is part is requirement analysis phase. Okay, this is name is basically here is in the black, so cannot read this well. The requirement analysis phase. Now let me just tell you, requirement analysis phase is sometimes it is people may say it is slightly different. They may say analysis and design. Some places they may say requirement analysis phase. So it depends on the book which you follow. Okay. Now in this basically requirement analysis phase, the requirements are elicited, they are confirmed, they are scoped against the solution scope, and then they are presented and documented. That's the BRD you prepare. Then requirements are verified against the organization capabilities, and the requirements are analyzed further for define and converted them into the solution requirement requirement. So earlier it was a business requirement, then we convert them into the solution requirement, that is your FRD, that is functional requirement document. So in this we write the functionalities and the process of the system will handle. We also write the requirement related to the data, then system performance requirement, securities, and maintainability requirement for the system. The last three, that is a system performance, security, maintainability, this could be your non-functional requirement. And then we verify and validate the requirement. We ensure that requirements are measurable, testable, and they are related to the business need and opportunity identified in initiation phase. Okay, so this is basically what we talk about the requirement. And next phase basically is a design phase. In the design phase, if you see, the physical characteristic of the each subsystems are defined in this phase, and the operating environments is established. Major subsystems and their inputs and outputs are defined. So we actually prepare the architectural diagram, not the business analyst, but it is the architect will prepare. Then processes are allocated to the resources. Then everything requiring user input and approval must be documented and reviewed. Okay, so this is basically what we have. Then detailed design is prepared, and subsystem identified during the design are used to create detailed structure of the system. Okay, so this is basically what we do in the design. Here you may find that sometimes if we have not completed some of the part of the work, the business analyst will basically will perform his duties. Okay. Again, business analyst will collaborate with the architect and other technical team to communicate the requirement so that they do their work. For example, if the architect will like to understand the requirements mentioned in the FRD document, that's a functional requirement document, or the database person who is building the database or the preparing to build the database, he also will collaborate with you. And there are then the testing team basically will start interacting with you to understand what are the possible test cases are there, or they will, if they have any queries, and that they will expect you to basically address them. Okay, so that's basically your role. Then comes to the development phase. In this case, if you see, the BA will have some role, but what actually happens is the detailed specification produced during the design phase are translated into hardware, communication and executable software. And a software shall be unit tested, integrated and retested in a systematic manner. Hardware is assembled and tested. This is what is happening at the technical team, but of course the business analyst will be busy in addressing the requirement related queries, and also will address the any the changes are there, and they will ensure that the change are handled appropriately. Then is your integration test. What is integration test means? It is various components of the systems are integrated before the testing. It is shifted in the sandbox or the testing environment. So that is typically integration. Testing phase. Now two of you are testers, so you know this. So here the testing will happen, and to ensure that all the functional and non-functional requirements are satisfied by the developed and modified system. Okay, so and that is one, and the testing is done. And then second part is system must undergo the accreditation and certification activities before installing and operating the system in the production environment. At some places there may be the condition, especially when you have a third party involved, if the vendor is delivering the system, and then if you have mentioned that in the SLA that the particular solution must pass the particular quality accreditations or the obtain some certification, so this is a stage where the project manager has to complete this part. Okay. And what is the BA role here? The BA will basically monitor the testing activities, and they will also ensure that all the issues and risk and problems are raised during the testing phase. Those will be addressed and those are resolved, so that no bugs are carried forward and no issues are carried forward, so all of them are resolved. And secondly, they will also communicate back with the key stakeholders what is the result of UAT and whether it is good to go ahead, and they will also provide, not the business analyst but the relevant stakeholders or the users will provide the sign off. And next part is that there are two testing. The testing is done at the basically the testing team, but the UAT is basically conducted by the business analyst. So they will communicate and coordinate with different team members, the business users and the stakeholders, and conduct the UAT. Once the UAT is successfully conducted and you receive the approval, the you receive the approval, then you can basically go ahead to the next level. Okay, so that approval on the what we call the UAT result must be there. Without that approval you can't move to the next level. Okay, so that's one. Yes, the business, I saw the queries about the SLA. Yes, business analyst will be involved in the SLA. Okay, depending on the situation, not all of them. But if you are a business analyst at the business side, okay, now there is also a little bit of a confusion. Business analyst will have two different roles. For example, if you are a business analyst at a business side, so definitely you will be involved in the SLA because you have defined the features and functionalities and the requirement. So either you will be actively involved or in means passively involved. So in case when the service level agreement comes to you, so you have to also, they may expect you to go through that to ensure that what vendor is providing is basically in line with what we are expecting them to deliver, right? And that is in line with our the requirement, right? That is one way. Or secondly, in some places or in many places, the business analysts are basically required to directly communicate with the vendors and initiate the request. They can send a request for proposal, they receive the proposals, and then based on the different proposals they study, and then they recommend appropriate solution to the stakeholders based on all the details what they see. Okay, they can also benchmark. That part is there, we will go through that at later stage. So when they provide that, so all these factors are basically considered in the BA role. And the business analyst, when he is doing all of that, whoever the BA is involved in these activities, he or she will also will be involved in the SLA. Okay, either advising them or actively what we call participating in the SLA writing, right? Okay, so this is usually these SLA documents are written by compliance team. Remember that, compliance and legal team, because those are legal documentations. So when you talk about a legal team is writing, so in that case you have to, they will coordinate and collaborate with you, so that they know that all the relevant details are incorporated in the SLA document. Okay, so this is how it works in the large organization. Then comes to the implementation phase. When we talk about the implementation phase, we are looking at is a system or the system modifications are installed, okay, and made operational in the production environment, right? So this is simply going live, right? So that it starts communicating with other systems. Then comes to this is initiated after the system has tested and accepted by the user. So this is only after that we just do it. This phase continues till the system is in the operating on in the production environment. Okay, and in accordance with the user demand. Operation and maintenance is basically the system operation is ongoing basis. The system monitored in accordance with the user requirement. Needed system modifications are incorporated. Sometimes you may find that there are many requirements are there, but we have taken care of only few requirements because those were in the scope, but users have given additional requirements, so those requirement becomes like, you know, what we call those requirement, we consider them, okay, as a good to have, right? So those we will, and then those good to have requirement can be basically analyzed further and to see if they can be used to enrich and enhance the solution. Okay, and it comes to the basically next is it continues as long as system adapts to respond an organization need. In case the system does not respond to the organization need, or it becomes a redundant or obsolete, at the time we may think about basically terminating the system. That's the last termination or disposition phase. So in the termination or disposition phase itself is a project, because it's a huge activities. Disposition activities will ensure orderly termination of the system and preserving vital information about the system. Remember, this information is definitely required. Then emphasis on the prevention of the data processed by the system, so that the data is effectively migrated to other systems or archived for potential future access. Okay, so this is basically what is done. And in the disposition, there is also a few things you need to remember. There could be some local laws and regulations which required you to basically preserve the data for certain number of years. For example, in India, we have to maintain the accounting data for 7 years, right? So that's a mandatory. So if you don't do that, then it could be issue. So this is what we say. And another part we talk about it, basically this is a project itself. Basically the project manager is the appointed, and then we go through the we ensure that the disposition is done properly. For example, we see what is the solution which need to be basically removed, and then who are the customers. We need to give them one billing cycle, we need to give them a time for one billing cycle. In case we are discontinuing the services, then they will get a appropriate time. Yeah, disposition means termination, okay, ending. So they will the customers will get a sufficient time to complete their billing cycle and pay the amount, and also get a sufficient time to make the alternate arrangement, right? And once it is done, the system become inactive, and then what we do is that we bring it down, means it is no longer live in the production environment. Then we take the archive all the data, right? And then after that it is disintegrated from the production environment, and once it is disintegrated, then it is formatted, and all the what we call hardware is given back to the hardware team so that they can reuse it. And the data is archived. That once the data is archived, it is given into all the it is given into the relevant person to ensure that the archived data is basically accessed appropriately by a proper the stakeholders, so that access is there, and all the information is basically the list of all the information is basically provided to the relevant stakeholders, so they know exactly what information they have and where it is stored. In case if, for example, your particular system was collecting the customer data, so then once you have the customer data, then you will come to know, okay, I have the customer data. If we have some other business, we can basically what we call use these customers and inform them, so that we do have a loyal customers, so they can come back to us in the future if we want to launch a new product or services like that. Okay, so this is basically what is all about your the SDLC. Okay, and let me just a little bit stop and start other the slide. Just a minute. Can you see the role of business analyst here?
Yes, ma'am, I can see.
Okay, great. So now we have seen the SDLC. So here basically I want to give you a little bit of the phase wise the role. One is that the business analysis idea and the request, basically that is at the time we do the feasibility of the business requirement, overall solution, software solution. And in the feasibility we do that business case we prepare, cost versus benefit analysis. During the requirement analysis, our role is basically planning for the requirement, gathering the requirement, communicating the requirement, and analyzing the requirement. And during, let me just give you the 100%. Okay, and during the planning phase, we do the basically the business requirements, plan for the business requirement, functional requirement, non-functional requirement, and the basically prototyping, modeling, requirement verifications, and validations. actually this is interchanged. Planning has to be on the top and the requirement analysis has to be down. So slightly change happened. Then in the designing time, here we do is basically structuring and scoping, the prototyping the requirement, right? So that's what we do. We create the use cases, flow diagrams, charts, coordinating with the architect for the architectural diagram, data flow diagram, and the data modeling diagram and user stories. Okay, so this is basically what we do. So question. And in the development phase, as you have already seen, what we have is basically monitoring and coding work as per the functional requirement, reviewing the test scenarios, test cases, preparing the user manual, and completion of the use cases, and managing the change. Okay, so that's basically what we do, managing the requirement change here, because the change means sometimes is entire project, so there is a little bit of a difference. Then we have is a testing, that is basically monitoring the testing activities, actively participating on the daily testing and development review meetings, resolving the issues if any, and conducting the user acceptance testing, and obtaining the user UAT testing result, right? Then in the implementation and closeout, we have basically ensure that rollout of the idea or the request is done appropriately, and whatever the initial stage you may find some bugs, issues, or some other things, so those are been, you ensure that those are been resolved, and you update ongoing basis to your stakeholders about how things what is the status, and they conduct the user training if it is required, and prepare the documentation, that is a closeout documentations, and post implementation reviews are done. This is again important, is that post implementation reviews at how the project is basically the working, and what is the users feedback during that time, right? So those are the basically the role the business analyst will do. And during the operation and maintenance, the post implementation review, once the solution is settled in the production environment, through the constant evaluation and improvement processes. Remember, this is most important, is that you must review the solution once it is settled in the production environment, and keep enriching and enhancing, and this is a ongoing process till the solution remains in its what we call production environment or in its life cycle. Okay, so this is basically the role. And let me see whether it is in the disposition. Document all the necessary data, business rules, and other information as per the company need and the local regulatory government body requirement. Okay, so this is the role of the BA throughout the life cycle. Okay, so if you have any queries, let me know. Okay.